Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my day off, which actually is going to be a video I'm making right now. That's why I'm wearing my more comfortable Hawaiian shirt. So you're probably wondering, what are we doing today? Well, if you didn't read the title of the video, we're answering your comments that I have online right here. So if you're wondering why we're doing comments today, it's because for the past year I kind of just haven't answered comments. So that's why we're here. If you're wondering why, there's no excuse. I just got lazy. That's just literally what it was. I just took one today and I was like, you know what? I don't feel like answering today. And that grew into a week, then a month, then a year, and then over a year. And that's where we find ourselves. So I'm going to be going through some of my older comments that I have not touched. We're going to start answering some questions, going from there and working our way up. We're not going to touch on everything from the past, but we are going to touch on some things because some people want to know my answers to a lot of things that they post. So here you go. You're going to get the candid answers and we're going to see what happens. So here we are for the comments from you. The first one we have is tier list for Kilo Squad or Delta Squad. Every team member except JD, Del, Kate, and Foz. So for that one, we are going to be working on Kilo and Delta one of these days. I've already made it known that after we finish the comic series, I will do Delta, and I am sprinkling in a little bit of Kilo and some other works as I do the comic series. So yes, we are going to get to Kilo, we are going to get to Delta. Someday I do want to do like the new gen characters, like with Del, JD, Kate, Foz. I do want to do those someday, but I have no clue when I would. So for now, yes, you are going to get one someday. I just got to figure out how to feng shui that one, since we've got Baird and we've got Cole in Kilo and Delta, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna build those lists. So we'll figure that out as the day comes. Michael Barrick should get the Cog Medal of Honor. So that, ladies and gents, is basically the Embry Star. And no, Barrick does not have the Embry Star. I would like if he did. And a little side tangent, it's so funny that like we have some characters who have it and others don't. And I get why some do. If you read up on the lore and you read the books, you know why the Embry Star was given to like, you have like Marcus, you have Dom, like they're holders of it. Technically, you also have it where Hoffman has one too. But it's just like, I know it doesn't work where like you can accumulate enough points to get a medal. I get that. But if it was like that, Barrick would already have one. Dizzy would already have one. I could see Dizzy never getting one because of their views on the Lifeboat Initiative, but I'd love if he did. But it's so funny because Barrick should probably have one. At this point, like with Montevideo, with like what he was doing over during like the books and comics, not really the books, but you have him appear here and there everywhere. Like what we have with like the Shadow of Rom series, you know, with Alima. He probably maybe should have got one for saving lives. I don't know. Then again, they were really not happy about the Alima situation, so I can see why he didn't get one there. But yeah, I would like if he did, but technically per requirements to get the Embry Star, I guess technically he doesn't qualify. So I would love if he did, but he just doesn't have it. From my E-Day What to Expect video we have, I also hope they redact Karn being the weakest link and make him more of a threat. Not quite like Rom or Scourge, but enough to be taken seriously and to earn his place among the Locust Big Baddie hierarchy. So here's the thing, when it comes to like Karn in general, Karn kind of already is kind of recognized and respected. It's just how we, the players, see him in the games he was in, we don't really see it that much because again, he was in Judgment, no one's a big fan of Judgment, and we don't really see him outside or talked about other than that. But if you look at like the Rise of Rom comic, you do have it where Rom puts respect on Karn's name. Yes, he doesn't see him as being like, oh yes, he's going to be someone standing amongst, you know, the top tier. He never saw it like that, but he did understand like Karn is a tactical genius. Probably the smartest tactical person in the Locust. Debatable, but he is one of them. So when Rom looks at this, he's like, okay, yes, he is sort of a pawn for my plans for running a coup against Srock, but at the same time, this person is going to be invaluable to my cause. Once I am in charge, this man is going to play a major role. That is why he sent Karn out to Groznia, and he basically just leveled that place within a very short amount of time. E-Day hit, Karn was basically, I'm already done. He went off and he took care of dealing with Tyrus then. Imagine that. You finish off a country on the other side of the planet so early. Hey, I finished up. I'm going to go help you out over in Tyrus. And basically it was a two-man front at that point with leadership because Rom originally gave Karn like a pseudo leadership of general, kind of, when it comes to how he was running everything over in Groznia. But then once he joined back up in Tyrus, it was like an honorable role at that point because at that point Rom was calling the shots. But Karn was definitely in charge of taking care of everything on his side with Halvo Bay. So in our eyes, we don't normally see that, but in lore and story-wise, once Rom was placed in charge, Karn did hold a pretty higher standing than what we kind of perceive. So in a way he does, but I would like some shine put on Karn's name some more, like mention the battle in Grozny and how everything's gone quiet, you know, alluding to Karn. I hate that Reyna just meanders out of nowhere and just caps Ukon, all for a very lazy and poorly thought out tie-in. That's her whole legacy in 5. Essentially, you're right. I'm not a fan of it either. When I was playing Tactics, I was never a fan that towards literally the end of the game, Reyna is now brought in. I think you could have done a lot better job if you threw her in the middle of the game. I think that would have been fine. You would have had like your main cast established, and you wouldn't have already had like your main units you were using through the whole game already buffed up and ready. I think you definitely could have tied in Reyna a lot better into your teams, because by the time I got to the end of Tactics, I had no need for Reyna. Reyna was just there. I just basically was like, just sit in the corner, Reyna. I do not need you at all. And then you get to the final battle where you need Reyna, because I think you need all the characters for that one. And it's just like, okay, well, Reyna, I have you like severely under-prepared for this. Go ahead, Reyna, let's see what we can do. And it just throws everything out of whack. It makes the game just harder. So I just never saw a point to having Reyna a part of the team, because to me it was just a waste of time. So you could have thrown her in and had her like a story element and not had her a part of the playable cast. But, you know, they did that, and I mean, tie-in, I guess it kind of works because they were doing their best to make Tactics work. Because in the books, you have it where later on they're trying to tie in a lot of stuff and mention Ukon and everything. So they did their best to tie in Tactics, but it really does feel like they're forcing it down your throat to tie it in. I think they could have just done better with like the storytelling for the end of Tactics. But overall, I still do like Tactics, and it works in a way, but yeah, they could have done better with Reyna. As long as I've counted correctly, I have come up with 150 actual quests for this game. However, this does not include missions, nor does it include records of eminence, some of which I think could be considered quests or quest-like things. For anyone who doesn't know right now, live streaming, we're doing Final Fantasy XI. Go check it out. Amazing times. My goal is to finish every single Final Fantasy game, or at least the main ones at a minimum, and at least have it where they're done, finished, a bow has been tied, and I am done. We have completed it. My goal with 11 is to finish all the quests. That is a very hard undertaking since this game has been around for over 2 decades and it's an MMO. So, it's a very hard thing to do. Luckily, Jason here, one of my good friends, and one of the regulars, a seated council member, the guru himself, the sage, has gone through and given me like an idea of how much we have to get through. So, my goal is to get through it all. It's going to be a very long time, but that's why we're there every Monday to watch. So, tune in and see me complete quests. From my Was Prescott Evil video, he was for sure. He had Marcus's dad abandoned on Azura when he could have left him stay, and he could have cured the emulsion and took the Locust down after Gears 2, but no, he had him took. So what this implying is like with the whole Marcus's dad situation, so with Marcus's dad, with Adam. So Adam was taken to Azura. He was taken to Azura during the events of like before the first game. This was like the reason Marcus was thrown in the slab was he abandoned his mission to go and help his dad. He thought his dad was killed. He was not. He was actually still alive, and he was secretly taken to Azura by Prescott. When it brings up like stopping the emulsion and everything, that wasn't like a thing. They didn't have a way to do that until Gears 3. Adam was still working on that machine to make it happen. So there was no way they could have done it by Gears 2, especially with sinking Jacinto. That one was all basically Marcus's on-the-fly plan. That was what they were going to do. So in my opinion, was he evil in general? This video, I mainly wanted to touch on the idea of like, you know, some of the evil things he did have purpose to it. He was very pissed at Adam for hiding everything involving the Locusts. So that's why he was like, you know, I'm going to take you to help us out, but also screw you. You kind of screwed humanity with that one, buddy. He took him there to basically figure out a cure for emulsion and do something to figure out how to stop the Locusts at least. Because he was already working on things. And with his idea, like how far he was at that time, if you were to use it, everyone dies because the emulsion was just in everybody at that point. But he was trying to finite it so it would only take out the Locust. That's why Mira was so gung-ho on like, we need to get to Azura and get to Adam before he activates this machine and just kills all of us. You know, we need him to find a way to cure us so that we can live, so we can continue to attack the surface. The idea I wanted to cover in the video was like when he decided to straight up glass the planet with the Hammer of Dawn. That was not a decision he wanted to do. That was something that he did as a last resort, and he felt extreme guilt over doing that plan. One of the things you see in the book, the last line you see before he hits that button is, "May God forgive me." Like, he was very, like, certain, like, I'm going to hell for this. You know, when I die, I'm not going to a very happy, meadowy, cloudy place in the sky. I'm dying, and I'm straight up going to fire and brimstone. I have done some horrible things, and that has not changed at all. So, I see where they're coming from here, but at the same time, like, there was merit to what he was kind of doing, Prescott. And also with the Adam situation, that was like, yes, it was a scummy thing to do, but he was doing it for the betterment of mankind, and there really was no cure at the time of 2. So, I don't know what to tell you on that one. I wonder why the Riftworm gods don't have names. I could see that being in the Cantus rites. Also, how come Scourge could control the Riftworm? Very good question. So the reason he was basically able to control the Riftworm was essentially it comes down to like emulsion and Scourge's ability. So Scourge's ability was kind of, it's very not explained a lot, but then again, there's a few things with the Locust that are never like heavily explained, like with scientific fact or anything. Like the original hive mind, they touch on it quite a bit, but never like go into detail. But how it works is that Scourge had the ability to kind of like, you could say peek into the veil. Okay, so he was able to like have visions, and he could like peek in and like with the emulsion giving him like messages or signs. These were never like finite, like he could see the future, this is what was going to happen, but he was able to kind of see that. And in the Cantus side of things, that was seen as like a religious, like, oh my gosh, he has a gift. When really it could have just been like the emulsion gave him like a genetic situation where he was able to kind of like, I don't know, like have visions, kind of, but he didn't have actual visions, but like what he thought was visions. So the emulsion kind of plays into it where like the Riftworms are in there for so long, and like this ability he kind of had like linked him to the Riftworm. It's not like he was actually controlling it or saying like, yes, I control it. Yes, do a burp, ride this way or that way. It wasn't like he could do that. It was more like he could guide it. That's what he could kind of do. Because of that ability he had with like the visions, it kind of pseudo was like a mini connection he had with the Riftworm where he could guide it to where he wanted to go. As for why they didn't have names, so the Locusts themselves are not that old of a race. I think less than 100 years even. Definitely less than 100 years. Like they came around during the time of the Pendulum Wars. Like that's how young their race is. So I would imagine for them, like the Riftworms, they're seen as like gods. So it's kind of like how in the like the Christian idea you have God. How God doesn't really like, it's not like God has an actual name like Frank, you know? It's just God. So they probably see it as like the Riftworms. They are the ones who like, you know, command. Also, I don't think any of them would have ever like actually like seen them. Maybe it was like a vision situation from someone other than Scourge was able to see that there were 3, and it was written in the texts. Kind of like, these are the Riftworms, you know, like that's the idea. And then when they actually appeared, the first one at least, they were like, oh my god, these are actual real creatures. They aren't just like our stories. The religion is true. So that's kind of how I see it. So they probably didn't have names because they were just like these beasts that they see as like figures. And then when it comes to like the connection, it was more of like he was leading it. It wasn't like he had control. It was more like I have like a pseudo link to it and I'm like telling it where to kind of go. That's kind of how it was when it came to Scourge and the Riftworm. I hope we get some new varieties of Locusts for this. Maybe some new hollow creatures for weapons. I also hope that the cog tags with names, ranks, and serial numbers with the little messages on it returns. It would be cool to see the Locust symbols with a name, serial number, and messages from 5 return. Even though it was a collectible, it was cool to see insights into the Locust Horde society and military by seeing names and messages. I also agree. I think that would be amazing to see. I think E-Day is like the perfect time to do that too, because this is the first time that humanity has come across the Locusts, or the Locusts are technically coming across humans. They're the ones attacking. So I think it would be great where like you have some Locusts that are down and you get like their items and you get to learn about the Locusts. Like the humans are learning about the Locusts at this point. I think that would be really awesome. I think that would be great. For the cog tags, I think it'd be great to have them come back. I think it would be a great idea. You could definitely get Easter eggs with characters that have been mentioned or anything, and you could see what they're doing around E-Day before they died. Like you could have characters like, what's a good example? Find a way to have Dizzy's son, his stepson, be brought into it. I don't think they were fighting I don't think he was fighting in the areas we're going to be coming across, but I definitely think you could have it where like you find his tags and you see that like, oh, Dizzy's son, I forget what his name was off the top of my head, but oh, here's his tag and here's what happened to him. And then that's a good tie-in to like Dizzy's story, and you have it also where you kind of get like, oh, here's how we confirm that his son died. I think that would be great. For the Locust, I think it would be a great time to do the collectible idea with the Locust because, again, it just makes complete sense. I think that's a great idea. Loving the history of the channel, listening and switching back and forth between poker games. I did not know your channel had been running for so long. Congratulations, very fun recollections, LOL. So this was during like a live stream I did when I kind of like we didn't have much to do and my internet wasn't great and the connection to like Final Fantasy 11 wasn't that good. So we kind of just went through like the history of the channel and talked about that. So for people who are new, yes, this channel has been around for quite a bit. This channel has been around for like, at this moment, I think we're up to 8 years. So a lot of people have been like really coming in strong and heavy in the past couple of years. But yeah, we've been around for a while. We've been doing this for a bit. So for anyone new, hi, I'm Cody. I've been doing this for a little while, doing Let's Plays and random crap. So yeah, hi. I hope if Jermod comes to Gears of War E-Day, we get to face him. Enemy at the gates. Oh, my name pronunciation's horrible. Vasily Vasitev, Colonel Zhang style, a series of brief, immense hide-and-seek cat-and-mouse skirmishes that ends with a final showdown. I really hope they bring Jermod up in E-Day, and we learn what happens to Jermod, because we are never given, like, an ending story to what happens with Jermod. He's first ever introduced in the Rise of Rom comics, and we know that he actually is, like, not the right hand, but he is, like, one of the major forces that Rom has in his army. So Jermod, I would like to assume, is probably just still fighting somewhere, because when we leave off at Jannermont, we see that Rom is basically leaving Jermod in charge of that assault there, and then you have it where Rom and Scorch are going off somewhere. So I would like to assume we're going to be coming across Jermod, and if not Jermod, we're going to learn where Rom and Scourge went. Possibly we're going to come across them during E-Day. I 100% believe we're coming across Rom and E-Day. There's no way we couldn't. It's General Rom on E-Day. He was out and about fighting quite a bit. Jermod I'd like to see, but I don't know how many options or situations we're going to have where it comes to Jannermont. Maybe we will. I know that we're not, the main game isn't taking place specifically at Jannermont, but I mean, they could bounce around different areas and it's like, you know, a side mission or something happens where we're at Jannermont. So yeah, there's a good chance we'd see Jermod. I hope we do. I like Jermod's character. Fingers crossed for Jermod, baby. Do they tell time like we do? Like someone's asking what time is it and someone responds like, oh, it's 13:15. Or do they do it like military time, like it's 13:24 hours? So for this one, how it works is that we specifically deal with the military. We deal with the military for all of this, so that means that we're going to be getting the military time. So that means like 2,600 hours, which is, you know, 26 hours in a day, because that is how the Saren planet goes. So for that one, basically how it works is that there probably is a normal time. There probably is up to a 13-hour AM PM. I'm assuming because Sarah is very heavily based off of Earth, with Earth customs and Earth things, Earth language, everything like that. Even the people, even though they are not all from specific countries that we have, they are all still like, okay, this person is obviously from New Zealand, this person is obviously Hispanic, this person is obviously Asian descent. Like that's a thing. So I would assume they probably have like a normal standard time to do it. And then the military time, we just know military time because we're dealing with the military the whole time. So there you go. I would assume probably they do. I got an even better one. This one is from my Swarm versus Locust video. The Locust Horde, the Swarm, and the Lambency in a 3-way battle royal. Maybe even throw in the cog if you want to make it a 4-way battle royal. Wow, the light is really bouncing off everywhere now. Okay, we'll do our best. So for this one, a 4-way battle royal, would I ever make a Swarm versus Locust video round 3? I probably will when I get probably Gear 6 coming out, when the Swarm has better odds, because the Swarm just will not win. So how it would work between the 4 is that essentially, in my opinion, how it would work from like the first out to the one that's going to win. First one out is probably going to be the Swarm. I think the Swarm would be the first one out. After that, if we're going by all of them at their full strength, we'd probably look at the Cog being the next ones out, and then the Locust, and then the Lambent would win. Because the Lambent essentially was like, it's slowly killing everything, and there was really no way to deal with it. It took all the forces to figure out how to fix that one. And you're saying like, they never teamed up. Oh no, they didn't team up in front of us. They teamed up in the background. Adam Phoenix was a culmination of everyone's science put together. You had it where he was working on, from the Lambent side of things, like trying to figure out what it was in his organism and his wife's research. Then you have it where the Locust brought him in to try and figure out how to do it. And he basically did figure it out. And then the Cog technology at Azura. Like, it was a culmination of everyone's science for Adam to figure that one out. So no, the Lambent would most definitely win at full power because they could keep turning people. And by the look of how fast it took, it could either take a short amount of time or a long time. Like, look at Rustlung, for instance. It could be really quick, you're taking over with Rustlung, or like 30 years later, you finally die. Because that was Emulsion that was killing you. Lambent are inside Emulsion, so there you go. But yeah, the Swarm wouldn't do too well because their numbers are just not there yet. Yes, they are a threat, but remember, they're fighting like, at this point, there's more than 1% of humanity. There's like 2 to 5. But Imagine humanity's full forces against the current Swarm. They will not win at all. I can promise you that. The Swarm are the weakest possible enemy in this entire franchise because of the fact there's so few. Maybe if you throw in like the Stranded will be the first to fall. But no, the Swarm would go down, then the Cog, because the Locust had them up to death's door. The only reason they won was because a lot of like Hail Mary tosses that actually worked. So the Lambent would win. Then the Swarm would fall very first, then Cog, then you would have the actual Locust, and then you would have Lambency win. That's how it would go. From my weapons that could defeat a Berserker video, do you think if cyberstatic gas was used from tactics, could it affect her? I don't really think it would do much at all. In fact, I think it would probably just like confuse her and not like stun her or anything. She would be like, okay. Like cytostatic gas does have its effects and uses. Obviously, it's not just a gas that would work solely on Ukon. Don't get me wrong, but we're looking at something like a Berserker who's already got like, you know, blind armor up the wahoo. It's not like you would throw this at her and she would just die from it. It wouldn't happen. You would probably throw this at her and it would just look around and say, okay, game on, and continue fighting. The biggest reason the cytostatic was so focused on in tactics was because it temporarily stopped the healing factor for Ukon. Like this was like something used all the way from when he was over, like held by humans after he escaped and everything. Like he still had this. Like it was a condition he always had, and the cytostatic gas always was like the thing that would temporarily make things easier with him. That's why when they used it, they're like, we have a short window to deal with him. There is no healing factor for a Berserker. The Berserker getting hit by that thing, yes, there are some other ramifications of cytostatic gas, but it would get hit and be like, okay, game on, and just ram right into you. That's exactly how it would go. So it would not kill her. It would not on its own kill her or anything like that. So another weapon that just wouldn't do it. Jeez, I am answering so many questions from Travis today. Maybe Niles will have a Scion's body infused with the circuitry of a DB in a grotesque Frankenstein-esque patchwork of flesh, biomatter, circuitry, and machinery. Or maybe he'll fuse with Reyna's consciousness and become like a master. So I don't see him fusing with Reyna's consciousness because that consciousness is technically like Mira. So Mira, I think, would be like, no one here is going to be in charge but me, especially her history with Niles. No, I think she would much rather either have him under servitude or just eradicate his consciousness 100%. I think that is exactly what she would like to do. I do think that his consciousness is in that hive mind somewhere with what we saw, but as to the like depths of how far in it is, I don't know. But I think there's probably something in there maybe, or even like the circuitry that like was absorbed in originally. I think there's something. There's something that could be in there. In my opinion, though, I think that's a really good idea. I think you could probably have it where like take like a, I don't know, like a brain dead Scion or like something that doesn't have a consciousness, and like put his like thoughts, personality, circuitry, whatever into it. And then since he's a scientist, you know, start having him like Frankensteining up with DB tech. Like one of his arms is just like, you have it. Basically, he's going to be like one of the like the super bosses from Resident Evil with like the Nemesis. He'll be a Nemesis. Like even put one of his arms, make into a Gatling gun or something from like a DB. I think it would work perfectly fine. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. I think that's something you could definitely go with. I wonder why we've never seen Reavers used as troop carriers. Like how they were in tactics, like 4 or 5 of them at a time, and they either rappelled down or jumped off. Or why they all weren't like that one we hijack in 2 guys on it armed with a machine gun and rockets. So with the Reavers, you can do a lot of things with Reavers. Like there is so many opportunities you can do to like do X, Y, and Z with Reavers. Probably just mechanic wise, just like gameplay wise is why they did it, because they needed some way to drop them off. I think you could have easily just argued like, hey, just throw the barges in again and do that. That could have easily worked also. But I feel like it definitely is a thought where like, you know, you have Reavers. Nothing stops you from dropping people off. I think just because of how the Reavers were originally built and everything, like physically seeing them do that would have been a hard thing to do, so why not just drop them off? That's my opinion. I think just aesthetically is why they did it. But yeah, there is opportunity to do Reavers than more than just 2 riders and drop people off. Like there's full opportunity to do it. So maybe a future, maybe E-Day. Maybe E-Day, though, that's where they're going to do it. Alrighty, from is Gears 5 worse than Judgment? Is it the worst Gears game? No. Is it a worse game? Yes. I agree. If you're talking about 5 being the worst game, I agree. In my opinion, I think overall, like looking at everything all together, I think that Judgment is a worse game than 5, but I still prefer Judgment over 5. no matter what. I prefer Judgment. Judgment has that charm to it, you know what I mean? It's just a charming game. You have a lot of visually, it's a very visually beautiful game for the time it came out. I like the story of it. I like that you get to see Baird and Cole earlier on in their careers. You get introduced to Paddock. I think it's nice. I think it's a pretty good game. 5 has so many issues I have with it, though, is where it just makes me disgusted to think about 5. Even though I'm going to be playing that one soon. When this video is coming out, we're going to be doing a Let's Play of it, so hooray. But, yes, I think as an overall Gears game, I think 5 is better, but as a game in general, I do think Judgment might be better. I might have to agree with that. I want to know if Zeta 6 is just one squad or is there actually 6 squads? I know when Delta split up, they went Delta 1 and Delta 2. So I'm not in the military. I've never been. I'm not a smart man with this, so I'm going to give you the best assumption that I've come across when I've gone through all of this, is that yes and no, kind of. Like, there can be multiple ones, but with Delta 1 and Delta 2, when you split the squad up, there's still Delta Squad, there's just 2 different ones. When it comes to Zeta, I think it really does come down to, like, your designation for a squad. Like, you have Kilo Squad, which is just Kilo Squad. We don't have any other Kilos. With Zeta, I'd like to assume Zeta 6 is just, like, their calling card. Like, there could be other Zetas, but it's just like you are the Zeta 6 squad. So it's not like it's a big only Zeta squad. It's just like, okay, you're a Zeta, 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 but we have multiple Zetas. So Zeta 1, Zeta 2, Zeta 3, Zeta 4, Zeta 5. So when Deltas 2 and Delta 1 are a thing, it's not like, okay, you know, we're one group with multiples, which is technically what it is, but it's more of like, okay, there are now 2 Delta squads that are out and about right now. So when they're calling in or anything, it's easier to know. Like, if there's 5 Zetas, or 6, we'll say 6, because we're talking about 6 of them. If there's 6 Zetas, and one of the Zetas is doing their own thing, the other is, it's not like they're all going to call in with Zeta, because then Control's going to be like, okay, which Zeta are you? They're going to be like, where's Zeta 3? Well, where's Zeta 3? Okay, oh, you're Zeta 3 over in this town. When it could also be like, okay, Zeta 6, okay, you guys are in Olima. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. So, like, a yes or no. So with Delta, they are splitting up and they are kind of just one Delta, but at this moment there are 2 Deltas. So they're doing that so they know who they're calling to. Zeta 6, you could have like 12 Zetas. It doesn't mean they're all one Zeta broken up. They're their own Zetas. That's as far as I'm at least understanding it. JD and Del were stationed at Settlement 2 when the riots happened, and JD gave the order to open fire. I remember that from Gears 5. From what I remember, he didn't go into much detail, just that the civilians were throwing incendiaries and that they felt guilty for giving the order to open fire. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So you're not really wrong. So I feel like until we actually physically see what happened there, this is essentially just what happened. It got to the point where the rioting was happening so heavily that it came down to just like, okay, JD is very new in this position and he's very like, he's not scared, but he's very overwhelmed with what's going on. So when they were being attacked, he saw that as just open fire, start firing, we have to fight back. And that's when they fired and killed civilians. That was one of the main reasons why he was basically like, we have to leave and join the Outsiders, because he just felt like, you know, and we see it in 5 with his character progression. This very much is his character, where he's like, you know, I'm not prepared for this. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's not his idea of run away, but more of just like, he burrows himself emotionally inside and just wants to avoid the problem. He did that with like the hammer strikes. He didn't want to deal with that. So he kind of like, you know, shut himself down and kind of just became a COG soldier. When this happened, he shut himself down and wanted to leave the COG and not deal with it. That's a big thing about JD's character, is that he is new to being a leader. He is new. He is Marcus's son. He holds up that legacy. Marcus is a very good leader on the military front, but when it comes to JD, he's very inexperienced and he has to make these big decisions. So when he makes these decisions and something goes foobar, he kind of freaks out. He doesn't know what to do. And this is a very human emotion, and I like where they took JD's character in 5. Against what a lot of people say, they did JD's character very well in 5, and I was a big fan of how they did it. Now, shaving your head all together and going emo, maybe, you know, you could have handled it differently, but overall not too bad. So, yes, that is what happened, and that's what leads into the events of, like, 4. And Del didn't know it was him who made the call until later on in 5 when it comes out from Foz that that's what happened. And that's going to do it. So I keep getting hit with the sun in my face constantly, so I think we're good. I think that answers a good amount of questions that we had. We still have a lot. So is this the only time I'll answer comments? No. We have a lot more to go through. Are we going to answer more things than just a bunch of Gears of War questions? Yes. It just so happens that a year ago, that was a very hot button thing people were talking about because of Gears E-Day being announced. So, we're going to leave it here. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone for making things possible. Thank the sun for shining in my face. And also just thank everyone for just being amazing in general. So, I will see you all in the next video. See you in the next one. Later!